All right, YouTube fam, today I wanted to address why people fell on their fitness goals. Now, the answers might surprise you because when I first started coaching years and years and years ago, I started in-person training back in like 2016. I thought the reason people were going to fail was because the workouts, were too hard, or, they had a genetic issue, or they got injured, or something else, or some family, drama came up, or some crazy stuff. But in reality, the reason most people fail on the journeys is because of themselves. Let me go through some reasons. It's not gonna be very organized, but it's just from what I've seen from observations. Because it's crazy that two people could be in the same situation and one of them will look at it one way and the other one will look at it a different way. One of them will be successful, the other one will be unsuccessful, right? Two people could be in the same position, right? Like I always say, you put a winner in a loser's position, they'll find a way to win. You put a loser in a winner's position, they'll find a way to lose. So the first thing that I've noticed is people don't realize that fitness is like a lifestyle, right? They don't understand what you mean when you say it. They think you mean like, okay, yeah, it's gonna be my lifestyle for a couple of weeks. They think, they have like a lottery mindset, like, it's gonna take one dramatic change to take them to their end goal. When in reality, we all know that fitness is about consistency, is about the compound effect over time. That's the most important part about fitness, is showing up day in and day out. Because when you're consistent, that's when your results start to add up over time. Like we all know, you can gain 20 pounds of muscle your first year lifting. You're not gonna gain 20 pounds in 1 week. And a lot of people have that mentality, that instant gratification mindset, like, hey man, I'm gonna start this new workout, it's perfect, the plan is insane, bro. I'm gonna start off by fasting for 72 hours, then I'm gonna do keto, then I'm gonna do watermelon fast, and I'm gonna lose so much fat, man. You could only lose so much fat at once. You gotta pace yourself and you gotta make it a lifestyle, all right? And that brings us to point number 2. People lack consistency because they don't realize that sustainability, precedes consistency. If something's not sustainable, you're not gonna be consistent with that shit. We all know that. Just like, guys, if you don't like a chick, right, and she's toxic, and you can't stand her, you're not gonna last long with her because that's not sustainable. She's not benefiting you, she's pissing you off, she's stressing you out. All right, so if you marry her, you know you're gonna divorce her. All right, same thing with fitness. If you love carbs like me and you do keto, you're gonna be thinking about carbs the whole time. Eventually, you're gonna divorce the keto diet and you're gonna go back to eating carbs, right? So why not incorporate carbs in the first place, all right? Incorporate carbs in the first place. Make it sustainable, make it a lifestyle change, all right? When people say eat good 90% of the time, it's 365 days a year. That's like 310 days. Eat good for 310 days. The problem is most people eat like shit for 365 days, to be honest. And then they expect results when they put 2 good weeks in. 2 small weeks is not gonna outdo or offset years and years of bad habits, all right? It's just not gonna happen. So you gotta make sure what you're doing is sustainable. One of the things that I realize as well is like when people are trying to make a change, they keep the Oreos in their cupboard. They keep the bullshit, in their fridge, the, old pizza in their fridge and shit like that. They still got the bullshit in the freezer, all the fries and the pizza, the DiGiorno. They got that in the freezer and they still have DoorDash and Uber Eats on their phone with their favorite places and notifications for any time, Crumble cookies on sale, or anytime, not Dunkin' Donuts, Krispy Kreme is having whatever, they be having sales and they be having lines and shit like that. People will still have those things and they expect to make a change. Listen, you need to change your environment when you're trying to make a change. Now, if you can't up and move, then just change what you're surrounding yourself with. When you surround yourself with healthy foods, healthy snacks, high protein foods, it's gonna be impossible. It's gonna be damn near impossible to eat unhealthy. When you're locked in and you surround yourself with the good foods, the right foods, you're not gonna be as tempted, right? Now, people who reach their goals and people who don't reach their goals, they both have the same temptations. It's just whether or not what positions they put themselves in and whether they actually give into the temptation. So if you're surrounding yourself with whatever your weakness is, if your weakness is chips and you're surrounding yourself with chips when you start your journey, you have a less likelihood of being successful than someone whose weakness is chips and doesn't surround themselves with chips, right? And has alternatives, maybe some Quest chips, maybe some, Skinny Pop, maybe some veggie straw, something like that, all right? Another thing that I see with people who fail on their fitness journey is this shiny object syndrome shit, man. So if you don't know what that is, shiny object syndrome is basically just jumping from the next thing to the next thing, never giving one thing enough time to work. Like you'll be like, hey man, I'm gonna do this water fast. I'm gonna do it for a year and see what happens. And then you water fast for like 1 day, and you're like, all right, I saw watermelon fast. That sounds the most sustainable. Then you jump to that and just jumping from fad to fad, never really doing something foundational and never really doing something that can, help you long-term. You're looking for short-term solutions, right? Or short-term options to a long-term solution. If you're trying to lose fat and keep it off, that is a long-term thing. So short-term solutions for a long-term goal, it's just not gonna fucking work. And the thing is, these are called crash diets and people still do them. It's fucking crazy to me. It's called a crash diet because everybody crashes when they do it. There's 100% like fail rate if you do keto, and everyone does keto. And then they're like, oh my God, I failed. What the fuck did you expect, right? That's like I'm not even gonna go into that example, that's crazy. But anyways, that's one of the things I see. And another thing that I see that has really surprised me, right, because I couldn't put my finger on it, right, is the victim mentality. That shit is very, very like, it's just ingrained in a lot of people's heads, right? And you know, when people get 8th place these days, they get a participation trophy, you know, all that bullshit, all right? And that really, and if you get a 2.0, you still graduate high school. So people don't really realize that like you have control of your destiny. They think everything's just preset and they think they're the victim in every scenario. So if someone has a lot of body fat, they're like, well, it's because my genetics are bad and it runs in the family. Yeah, the habits run in the family. You picked up the habits. You had a choice whether to do the habits or not do the habits. You picked up the bad habits. You're eating like shit. That's why you have belly fat. A lot of people think belly fat is just like, a lot of people think God is up in heaven and he's just like, you know what? I don't like that person. Let me give them belly fat. No, every inch of belly fat that you have is earned. Every inch of fat that you have on your body is earned. All right. If you have a lot of face fat, it's because you eat like shit and you're eating a lot of sugar, processed sugar. You have a lot of inflammation. It is earned. It is not given. All right. Fat is earned. It's not given. You know, results are earned and not given, but fat is earned and not given. Like, for example, I'll ask somebody after they ask me like, how do you lose belly fat? I'll be like, hey, what's your nutrition like? Do you work out? They're like, no, I don't work out or I don't eat. I eat whatever I want to because I can't lose fat anyways. And it's like, no, you can't lose fat because you eat whatever you want to and you're inactive. It's not that you can't lose fat so you do those things. It's because you do those things you can't lose fat. And people don't seem to realize that. And when you tell them, they're like, no, I don't think so. But they never really gave it, you know, the time to actually work, right? Because they're so stuck in this victim mindset, this loser mentality, all right? Victim mindset is a loser mentality. It just is. It's very hard to win when you think you have no control of your destiny. When you think you're a victim, that means you have no control over anything. And when you're thinking like that, then it's gonna be like, well, why would I try anyways? You give up before you even try. And I see that a lot. A lack of effort in the right direction is what holds a lot of people back. Now, people are very consistent when it comes to being inconsistent in the gym and eating like shit. All right, people are very consistent when it comes to that. Now, the way you gain fat is because you're consistently eating the same foods. Like, for example, my weakness was McDonald's breakfast. So how did I get fat? I ate a fuckload of McDonald's breakfast. Very simple. I didn't switch it up. All right, the formula was working. I was like, oh, fuck, man, I just got off work. I need something to eat. It's quick. I just eating that shit, got fat as hell, right? So when you want to, that means I'm successfully getting fat, right? And it's my fault. So when I realize, okay, this shit is my fault, in order to go in the right direction, I also need to, you know, take accountability and start to go be consistent in that direction. People don't realize that if you're consistently inactive, it takes a lot of energy for you to be inactive because your body wants to move. Your body wants to eat healthy. You have to feel like shit 24/7 when you're eating unhealthy and you're not moving around. So that's a built up tolerance that you get. All right. Another thing I see is, of course, back to what I was saying earlier, environment, but this time with people. A lot of people have never seen real results or they've never seen somebody locked in their fucking life, right? So they're like, yeah, I just see it on social media. Everyone's on steroids, this is that. And it's like, in reality, it's like, no. They just have good habits, but you've never seen someone have good habits. So it's harder for you to imagine. And when you're not surrounded by it and you've never seen it before and it's hard for you to imagine, it's going to be hard for you to do because you lack that self-belief, right? Self-belief is one of the biggest things out there because if I believe in you, but you don't believe in yourself, you can only get so far with external motivation, right? But if I don't believe in you, but you believe in yourself, you'll get further, right? Because you have that self-belief. And a lot of times, when doubt creeps in, you give less and less effort. For example, if you have a solid plan and you have a solid plan, you have faith in it, you're going to give it 110%. If you're not really sure about your plan and you failed at it before, you're not going to give it 100%, which means you're not going to get 100% of the results, which means you're going to be like, see, I told you it wasn't going to work. So self-belief is very, very, very important. Now, one of the things with self-belief is it is built over time, just like confidence is. So you're not going to have 100% self-belief the first day, but you have to give yourself enough time to build it up because what's going to end up happening on your journey is you're going to outwork your doubt. You're going to outwork your doubt, right? When you show up every day, regardless of what people around you are saying, regardless of what happened in your past, you're going to eventually be like, you know what? I'm serious this time. I'm real this time. I'm getting real results this time. You're going to outwork your doubt, right? Very, very simple. And last but not least, right, this kind of goes into sustainability and consistency, but like people have to understand how the process works. You can only lose so much fat at once, right? So like all these fads and all these pills that people are seeing like, oh my God, like all I have to do is take Ozempic and, do a water fast and I'll lose a lot of weight. Yeah, you'll lose a lot of weight, but you'll lose a lot of muscle too. All right. You lose a lot of muscle and people don't realize how fat loss works, right? Fat loss, you can only lose so much fat at once. All right. Obviously, the more fat you have to lose, the more fat that you'll lose. If you're like 200 pounds, 250 pounds, getting down to 150 may not be your best, best choice, especially if you have muscle on you. You probably want to get down to about 190, 200 area, maybe 210. But a lot of times people they just want to get the weight down, and they're like, oh my God, I lost 40 pounds in the first month, because they absolutely starved themselves, and now they have saggy skin, right? They have saggy skin because they don't realize the importance of strength training, of maintaining their muscle mass, right? I actually saw this I saw some dude post like he lost 50 pounds in the first 2 months or something like that. And I could already tell, he had a lot of fat to lose, but I could already tell like he's gonna have a lot of saggy skin because he's not lifting weights, he's just doing a bunch of cardio, right? So people don't seem to realize like the importance of having muscle mass for the aesthetic look that they're going for, number one. And when they get down to a certain weight, they end up going back to the old habits because they're disappointed in what they see because they didn't prioritize fat loss over weight loss. I see that a lot, all right? I see that a lot, but basically, the point I'm trying to make is, it's really like, this journey is way more mental than it is physical. I've seen people lose weight, but they haven't identity shifted. Like their identity hasn't changed from someone who's fit and does fit things. It still was the out of shape person who's just doing fit habits temporarily in their head. That's what they're thinking. So they're like, I prefer my old habits. Let me go back to my old habits. And I've seen people completely shift their mentality and be like, you know what? I'm sick of being this out of shape person with type 2 diabetes. And one of my clients, she was like, I'm sick of being this out of shape person with type 2 diabetes. I want to be an example for my son. I want to be there for him. And she changed her life. And she became the fittest version of herself, right? And she was writing it down, and she was reading it over and over and telling herself that she's the fittest version of herself. So honestly, at the end of the day, no matter how much motivation you watch, no matter how many videos you watch, at the end of the day, what you do on a day-to-day basis, the decision you make, the identity you align with, will dictate whether or not you reach your goals, to be honest. None of that victim mentality bullshit, bro. That pussy shit needs to stop, bro.